My name is Anna Keller. I am an investigative journalist. I follow evidence. This is Evidence Log 09. In the last log, I examined the statistics problem with the 1988 carbon dating of the Shroud of Turin and the statement made on record by the man who ran that test. He said there was probably a real body in the cloth. This log examines something different. It examines what an entirely independent physical measurement says about the age of the cloth. A measurement that has nothing to do with carbon isotopes. The result was not medieval. Linen is composed of cellulose fibers. Cellulose is made of long polymer chains. Over time, these chains break. The process is called depolymerization. It proceeds as a function of temperature, relative humidity, and the passage of years. The older the linen, the more chain breaks have accumulated. The more chain breaks, the more structurally degraded the cellulose. Wide-angle X-ray scattering, which I will call WAXS, measures this structural degradation directly. It inspects the physical state of the cellulose at the molecular level and produces a reading of how far the depolymerization process has advanced. That reading can be converted into an age estimate for the linen. This method was developed by researchers at the National Research Council of Italy and the University of Padua. It was validated against ancient linen samples of known age before being applied to the shroud. In 2021, the method was applied to a sample of the shroud, a thread taken from the proximity of the 1988 carbon dating area. The researchers then asked, what age of linen, kept under realistic environmental conditions, would produce that degree of degradation? The answer was not 7 centuries. The result was fully compatible with a linen sample approximately 2,000 years old. The fire of 1532 is the first counter-argument. The shroud was badly damaged at Chambéry. Heat accelerates depolymerization. Could the fire explain the anomalous reading? The researchers addressed this directly. This year, the temperature of the linen dropped below 100 degrees Celsius within seconds. The theoretical contribution of the fire to the total degradation reading would have been less than 1%. The fire cannot account for a result that implies 2,000 years of natural aging. The researchers then asked a more direct question. They applied the WAXS aging model to the specific hypothesis that the shroud is a medieval fabric. A medieval linen kept in Europe for 7 centuries would have produced a WAXS degradation reading between 0.041 and 0.052. The measured value for the shroud was 0.60. The medieval hypothesis is excluded by a factor of more than 10. This is not a small discrepancy. It is not within any reasonable margin of error. The cloth has been aging for much longer than 7 centuries. The same team then modeled 4 historical paths the shroud might have traveled before its first documented European appearance. Jerusalem to Beirut to Constantinople to France. Jerusalem to Edessa to Constantinople to France. Jerusalem to Memphis. Jerusalem to Camulia. Using Monte Carlo simulations and the recorded monthly temperatures and humidity of each city along each route, they compared the theoretical aging. Only one path was fully compatible with the measured result. Jerusalem to Beirut to Constantinople to Lire to Chambéry to Turin. The Edessa path produced aging significantly below the measured value. The Memphis path produced values too high. The Camulia path produced values far too low. This does not prove the shroud traveled through Beirut. A necessary condition is not a sufficient one. But it excludes 3 of the 4 major proposed historical paths, and it is consistent with historical sources describing an ancient image of Jesus Christ in Beirut. The WAXS result is not the only independent dating that has been applied to the shroud. Researchers at the University of Padua also developed mechanical and chemical dating methods. The mechanical method, measuring the degradation of cellulose through micromechanical testing, produced a date estimate consistent with the 1st to 3rd century AD. The chemical methods, using Raman spectroscopy and a technique called FTIR, produced estimates ranging from approximately 30 AD to 300 BC. Each method has its own uncertainties. None of them is definitive on its own. But taken together, they all point in the same direction. The 1988 radiocarbon result stands alone against this accumulating body of physical evidence. There is one more finding from the 2022 paper that deserves attention, independent of the dating question entirely. The researchers modeled the future aging of the shroud under its current controlled storage conditions in Turin. It will increase degradation by 9% over the next 5 centuries. As the background linen continues to age and yellow, it will approach the color of the image areas. The contrast will reduce. The image will fade. Whether the cloth is 2,000 years old or 700, the image it carries is degrading faster than the researchers believe is necessary. Evidence Log 08 established that the confidence interval attached to the 1988 result may not accurately describe the precision of the data. Evidence Log 09 establishes that an independent physical measurement of cellulose degradation is consistent with a 2,000-year-old linen and incompatible with a medieval origin by a factor of more than 10. Two independent lines of evidence. Two different methods. The same direction. The 1988 result has not been overturned. But the physical evidence for an older origin has been accumulating for decades, and the accumulation is now difficult to explain away. A second carbon dating, using samples from multiple locations across the main body of the cloth, would clarify the carbon question directly. The Church has not granted permission. Chain of custody, intact to this point. The search continues. Pay attention to what the physical evidence actually shows. If this log raised questions you want to follow further, the full record, primary sources, and companion post are at searchannakeller.substack.com. Subscribe and follow the investigation as it develops. The search continues there too.